What's up guys, welcome back to another episode of Entitled People. As usual, it's time to check out some more Reddit posts, so let's begin. Crazy old woman thinks no one should be allowed to eat food in hotels because she can smell it. For context, I work at a hotel, 62-room property where we only have one desk attendant on shift at a time. As such, we do solid 8-hour shifts and don't get actual breaks. We take breaks to eat when we have the chance. It's currently in the middle of our slow season right now, and there is very little to deal with during my shifts, so I can take a break to eat pretty much whenever I want. I was taking a moment to eat some dinner when an older woman came in through the lobby door. She just walked straight through into the hotel, and I had no reason to think anything of it. A few minutes later, she comes back in through the front door again. This time she still walks straight through, but gives me this weird, glaring kind of look as she does. It should be noted that anytime anyone comes through the lobby, I am always standing, ready to greet and assist them, unless occupied with another guest, of course. 5 or so minutes go by, and this time she comes back through the lobby again, but from the inside of the hotel going out the front door. Once again giving me a strange glare as she does so, but not stopping or saying anything to me. This happens 2 more times, until the last time she stops in the middle of the lobby and just stares at me. I ask her if I can assist her with anything, and she says, "I can smell food and I can tell that you've been eating." Internally, I'm thinking, okay, and? I tell her yes, I have been taking a break for dinner. She tells me that I am not allowed to eat while I'm on the job, and that she is going to report me. I tell her that is not true, and as we do not get breaks, we are perfectly allowed to consume food whenever we like. She snaps back with saying, "Don't lie to me. I'll be having a word with your manager," and wanders off. About 10 minutes or so later, I get a call from the woman, from her room, where she states, "I can smell your food in my room, and you need to stop eating." Now this is getting really strange and ridiculous. This woman is literally on the other end of the hotel, and there is quite frankly no possible way that she can smell my food outside of the lobby, let alone somehow across the hotel in her room. I'm right out done with this woman and her ridiculousness at this point, and tell her quite plainly that there is no way she could be able to smell my food from her room, and she can speak with the owner in the morning who will confirm to her that I am permitted to eat while on shift. She, yelling at this point, says, "This whole hotel smells like food because of you and it's ruining my stay. If you don't fix this problem, I will be contacting your corporation and filing a formal complaint." I had long been done eating my very much not at all fragrant turkey sandwich at this point, and decided to wander down to where her room was to see if there were any offending smells wafting about down there. I get to the end of the hall where her room is at, and it does in fact smell like food down that way. It smells like someone in a room nearby had microwaved some delicious lasagna or something. I call back to her room and tell her that I have, quote, investigated the problem, and that it appears that another guest of the hotel has prepared some food, and apologized for the inconvenience, but that anyone is allowed to eat food here and there is nothing I can do about the fact that she can smell it. She snaps back at me saying, "This is a hotel, not a restaurant. Why would people be eating here? This should not be allowed and I am still reporting you." Yes, whatever lady, you do you. A little while later, I get a call from a woman saying that her mother is staying at our hotel, and that she had just called her very upset, saying that she felt unsafe because there were, quote, noxious fumes inside the hotel, and that her mother had said she tried to report the problem to the front desk, but that no one was at the front desk because they were too busy eating and were ignoring everything, and asked me if I was aware of the problem, and if she needed to contact authorities because of it. At this point, I could not help but let out a laugh. I explained to the daughter of this woman, who she had called to complain for her now, that the noxious fumes were someone microwaving food in a room nearby, and there were certainly no hazardous substances or any threat to anyone's health at the hotel, and that I have personally spoken with her mother a number of times over the last hour. Her response surprised me, as I was prepared for more ridiculousness. She just said, "Oh, it sounds like she's in one of her moods. Sorry about that. I'll take care of it." And I haven't heard from the old woman since. What is wrong with people like this? It's like they were a classic stereotype of an old miserable person that just wants to make other people miserable in any way they can, and manifests problems for them to complain about. I look forward to seeing if she reports me in the morning. Guest calls the cops and he gets arrested. So I'm working second shift at a hotel and it's a slow day. I was in the back office, and when I heard the doors open, I get up to go out. As I was leaving the office, this girl comes barging in and says, "Please hide me." I've never seen her before, but I also haven't worked the desk in a few days. So I tell her to stay in the office and close the door. About 30 seconds later, a man walks in and says, "Where did she go?" He's looking all over for her. He barges into the office, but thankfully the girl somehow made it into the manager's office and closed the door. I'm telling him to leave, but he won't, and I get him into the doorway. As I try to close the door, he's not letting me close it. I somehow get the office door closed, and then he walks out to his car, grabs something, and proceeds to head back. I thought it might be a gun, but wasn't sure. I lock the door, and he can't figure out how to open it. That's when I get a chance to call the cops, and I proceed to tell them what happened and the description of the man. The police take about 20 minutes to respond, which I thought was odd because they usually arrive within 5 minutes. During that time I'm waiting for the cops, the guy kind of wanders around the property. He then proceeds to walk up the road out of sight. I finally get a chance to talk to the girl, and she tells me that that's her car in the lot. I ask her multiple times if he has a gun, and she made it 100% that he does not have a gun. I always conceal carry, so I felt a little better after confirming he had no gun. Long story short, I go check the car to make sure no one is there. She comes over to the car and she found her keys, phone, and purse all in the car still. She then says she's leaving and left. At this time, I thought they were just random people, and I did not know they were staying at the hotel. About 5 minutes later, a police officer arrives, and he tells me they caught up with the guy up the road and also the girl. So I thought to myself, well, that was a fun 35 minutes, and thought that was the end of it. Or so I thought. So about 1 hour after the officer leaves, someone walks into the hotel. I come out of the back office, and lo and behold, it's the same guy that barged his way into the office. I tell him he has to leave as he is no longer welcome at the hotel. He argues for a while, the same old, same old. Why are you kicking me out? I want to talk to the manager, I want a refund, and so on. I tell him I'll call the cops so they can escort him off the property, or he can just take his things and leave. He replies back that he's going to call the cops. He proceeds to call the cops. I tell him I've been doing this for over a decade. The cops are going to come and tell you to leave. He's going on and on about something, and then he says he's going to wait outside for the cops. Well, the cops respond in about 5 minutes, and 3 of them are talking to him for about 5 minutes. Then I look out the window and I see them arresting him. Then one officer comes in to take my information, and he says they're taking him to jail. I don't know what led up to the arrest as they were at the end of the parking lot. Either way, the guest literally called the cops on himself and got arrested. Side note, I do not want to see a guest get arrested. I never like it when that happens. People have bad days, and sometimes they're having a really bad day. I tried to defuse the situation, but I also couldn't let him stay on the property anymore, especially after he just barges into the office like that. I gave him every chance to pack up and leave, but he decided to call the cops on himself instead. I even told the responding officer that I don't want to have him CT'd, criminally trespassed. Now that's the kind of situation that makes you think, man, I do not get paid enough for this crap. I'm sure it's not every night something like this happens when you're working this kind of job, but given enough years working the night shift at a hotel front desk, I'm sure this kind of thing is bound to happen eventually. It's a good thing that OP could tell that this woman was probably in some danger and didn't hesitate to help give her somewhere to hide. Killed a tow company with one simple phone call. Several years back, I went to work for a towing company. It's about all I know how to do other than paint cars, which is drastically affecting my health. The pay was pretty decent, but we had to share trucks, and the boss felt that he knew where we needed to sit in order to get the best calls. This is important for later. Several months in, I realized that I was not making the type of money that I should be making. So I took the opportunity while I was sitting in a parking lot one evening to start researching the laws pertaining to employees in similar positions. He was kind of an a-hole, and the trucks had transponders so that he could see if we had them idling with the air conditioner on a hot day, or idling with the heat on a cold day. He was always calling, complaining about something if the wheels were not turning. During my research, I discovered that if he was requiring us to sit in a certain parking lot, street, or any location of his choosing, then we were entitled to be paid an hourly wage, not just our commission. The technical term was engaged to wait. However, if he allowed us to freely roam about while we waited for calls, we were not entitled to hourly wages, and we were therefore considered waiting to be engaged. I never mentioned this to him, but I did start taking note of my time. Another month or so goes by, and he decided to start coming down on me for tiny little BS. Things that ordinarily wouldn't even matter, such as I forgot a pop can in the cup holder. He actually had a screaming fit about that. At this point, I was tired of working there and had already found another job, so I decided it was time to put my plan into motion. I called him up, told him that we needed to have a conversation about my final wages, and that we could meet at his convenience. Upon entering the office, I laid out my argument, explained the state law, and told him I expected to be paid for the hours that I was on the clock, but not freely allowed to roam looking for work, or able to do things of my choosing. He told me in no uncertain terms I would not be paid for that time, as that was agreed to upon my employment. I did not bother to argue as I already had my next step planned, so I took my final check and I left. The following Monday I made a phone call to the State Labor Board, where I laid out my case to them. Needless to say, they were very interested in what was going on. In the end, they came to review his employment records and speak to the drivers still working. When he got the bill of what he had to pay to us all, it was too much for him to afford. So he sold the trucks, his boat, and lot, and went out of business. I never got the money owed to me in full, only a fraction. But the satisfaction of knowing the law just a bit better than he did and watching it all burn was pure bliss. That's all for today, guys. Thank you for watching. And as always, leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So take care, and I'll see you next time.